everybody. Welcome back to the Pace Bene channel. We have a very special guest joining us today, Sarah Nahar. Sarah is a nonviolent action trainer and interspiritual theologian. She was a 2019 Rotary Peace Fellow and the director of Christian Peacemaker teams. She also worked at the Martin Luther King Jr. Center, and she was an intern at Pace Bene. Sarah, thanks so much for being here with us today.
Absolutely. It's good to be with you. Peace and power, everyone who's listening.
Yes. So, Sarah, I know that you are very involved in working for environmental justice. I loved reading your work on that. And could you tell us a little bit about what brought you to that and how that ties into nonviolence for you?
Yeah. So when I think about the body of Christ and our connection to one another, I'm thinking about 1 Corinthians 12, let's say, where there are many parts of the body and each part of the body needs one another. The eye cannot say to the hand, I have need of you. Neither can the foot say, because I am not a nose, I don't belong to the body. But all the parts of the body are integral, necessary, and connected. And those, it says, it goes on in the later verses, those that we consider weaker are actually quite crucial and meaningful. And those that are considered less presentable, we give greater honor. And so for me, the way this relates to nonviolence is that there is a need to incorporate every piece of oneself, and because that's a metaphor, every piece of the members of the body of Christ. I also see a connection between the body of Christ and the body of the world, because when God became incarnate in that of the world, in the human, in the human comes from that word Adam, ha'adamah, of the soil, the incarnation of God in the stuff of the world also helps me to think about the fact that I cannot say to the trees, I have no need of you. Because, in science, we know like the trees excrete oxygen, and that allows us to breathe, and we send out carbon dioxide, and they breathe from that. And so I think that the body of Christ and the body of the world are really connected. And the more and more we learn about the body, the more and more we see that we're made up of so many cultures within our body, bacterial, floral cultures like this. And that's also similar to all the cultures of the world. So environmental justice for me is a natural extension of nonviolence, because the whole of the planet for me is the whole of the body of Christ. And so as a member in that, I want to both do my part and feel my belonging within the cycles, the natural cycles of the planet. So that's one way that I see them connected. And the other way is that, right now I work specifically on this question of human excreta and so-called waste, but in nature there is no waste. Waste is a verb, it's not a noun, it's a label when we use it as a noun. And so what I think a lot about is when, let's say, something simple as flushing the toilet. We flush it, where does it go? Away. And my question is, where is away? Away is somewhere. Who lives at away? Which beings are there? Whose bodies are impacted by the mechanisms that we use to separate from ourselves that which we don't want to see? And so environmental justice has come together for me with nonviolence to think actually about how we switch something as mundane as our toileting practices and see that the current freshwater flush system that we have now as is actually kind of predicated on some pieces of violence that have come through culture. And there are safe, hygienic, comfortable, and economic ways to handle our shit, is like what I say. I mean, like, just to really actually deal with the crap instead of like trying to flush it away or things of that nature. And so my theology also has a lot to say about, like, on planet Earth there is no way and there is no planet B. So like, this is our home. This is the beautiful Eden that we've been blessed to roam. And so how might we care, not only care, but be accountable to it as well. And that care and accountability, that's part of the heart of nonviolence. And so in terms of like our sanitation systems, that isn't just only changing our own practices to be on, say, composting toilets, is actually looking at the system as a whole and making interventions at the municipal level, asking where are poop and our pee going? Like, are they poisoning a freshwater body or a harbor? Is there another way that we can reintegrate and reuse and recapture the nutrients of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, as well as the organic compounds within our solid waste? So that's like some ways that I would connect it.
Wow, thanks so much, Sarah. That was really interesting to hear about. I love hearing your reflections on that. Thank you. And another part of your work that I thought was so cool was the Carnival de Resistance. So I hope I said that right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Could you share a little bit for us that don't know about what the carnival is and about your experience?
Oh, it's so fun. It was actually the Carnival de Resistance is the place I first like really met a composting toilet, but I'll get to that in a second. It was an ecological arts and culture and rejuvenating way of looking at how the elements of earth and air and water and fire spoke through the biblical text to this particular moment. Just one example is like from the air show. So we had shows that corresponded with each of these, and they were dramatic presentations of music, poetry, spoken word, and movement as well. And for each show, we would feature voices that came through the biblical text, and a very familiar story like Noah's Ark, which is often told from the perspective of the humans. We told it from the perspective of the raven and the dove, two birds that interact with the humans in the story. And they were able to bring information of warning, of concern, and we played with the polarities within those characters. For example, the raven was a big black bird from Camden, New Jersey, where all of the leftovers from Philadelphia wash up, and was speaking to us truth in fiery language about the impact of the ripped off mountaintops, the open air prison that is Gaza, the wars, and talking about how Gaia is on the rise and this will not be tolerated, and the earth will reshuffle itself, just kind of in this method of the flood that happened the last mythical time. And Dove interacted with that as well. She also saw the amount of violence that was around and explained it as well. But Dove, which often represents hope, was both mute and at times wounded, and one time caged as well, talking about the state of our hope right now. And as these birds interacted, in the biblical story, that the raven makes a choice and it doesn't come back to the ark. And then Noah sends out another bird, Dove, and it seems like Dove didn't come back, but kind of eventually finds a way back with an olive branch. And we got to hear from Raven's perspective. Why did Raven say, enough with humanity is too much? And what was in there for Dove to also kind of endure this pain and come back and say, like, nevertheless, what hope can we cultivate? So it was a show that took us through the motions of gratitude for being alive, the grief at what is happening to the earth and its beings, and how we might perceive in ancient and new ways in order to go forth and live in a much more deeply aligned fashion. So as we put on these productions, as the actors in them and musicians and other supporting roles, we also wanted to live out our values of environmental justice. So we lived in tents for a month, and we had our fossil fuel-free kitchen. We called it the Riff Raffeteria. And we also had composting toilets because we really wanted to like keep our our poop and our pee from going into fresh water. And that was the first time I met a composting toilet. And at first I was like, no. No, I don't think I can poop in that. But you know what? After a few days and then towards a month, I was just like, this is amazing. I am not polluting anything. And in fact, my human manure is not waste. It will go and it will support the life of trees and flowers and plants, and it will become soil again. And like seeing your like daily dookie as your daily duty, and just allowing you to become soil, that how that becomes part of ritual. Like it really changed my mind. I had my own personal conversion experience, let's say, with dealing with my own shit. And that is actually what got me into more and more thinking about the ways in which how not dealing with our excreta actually has huge consequences for the planet. And so there are many environmental justice issues. And so this is just the entry point that I work on. And also, when you think about what you want to push away, it can be things like conflict or like your shadow side. And the invitation also in working, I think, with that which stinks in your life is the invitation to continue to interrogate where difficulties, evil, sin, systemic hurt, and harm show up. And so it's also a commitment to that lifelong process of dealing with conflict and dealing with what the body can't process, you know, and seeing how we might reintegrate it for greater healing. So that was the carnival. It had a great 7-year run. And also another cool thing about it, in addition to living in tents, having a fossil fuel-free kitchen, composting toilets, is that we powered the sound system with bicycles. And so there was like generators hooked up to the bicycles that powered the battery, and so that powered the microphones and everything like that. So we always had volunteers from the audience and some of the support crews like pedaling during the shows. And so it was just also talking about how we do need to like find creative ways to generate our own power rather than relying on the fossil fuels and the extractive industry. So it's a journey towards a theology that's not extractive. It's a journey towards deep, holistic ways of being and having a ton of fun while doing it. So it was, I mean, there was costumes every day. And so many games that just really help us live into the joy of being together as people on this planet in this one wild life. So,
Wow, my mind is exploding. I really, really want to go see y'all now when the pandemic is over. I'm really excited. So everybody in Pache Bene, go see the carnival.
Yeah, so right now, so we have like the 7-year run.
Yeah.
And so like it's like that 7 year, you know, like very complete cycle.
Yeah.
And so the Holy Fool Arts, which is Seven East and Jay Beck and their close crew, has like landed the project in the sense that it has gone through like maybe it'll happen again, but maybe not. But what's happening now is like they're manifesting within the mountains of Western North Carolina, Cherokee land, a space for people to continue to dream together and to be together, and it's like an ecological arts center called Dreaming Stone. And so the carnival has manifested into like a space place idea to continue to live in these ways. But there are videos from it, and there's like always excerpts, and there's always like the potential like mini pop-up carnivals to happen.
Then I'll watch you all on YouTube. I can totally do that. And then my last question is, Sarah, what does nonviolence mean to you?
Wow, this question always touches to the heart because, you know, it's both like a way of life as well as a set of tools. Principled and tactical. Nonviolence is not something to be lorded over anyone, but a way of being and a methodology for challenging oppressive power with power with. It is a change-making force of love, levity, and longitudinal, I just made up that alliteration, longitudinal vision, long view that works really hard at harm reduction and on all levels. So from yourself, the mono, to the micro, to just people around you, to the meso, maybe your community, to the macro, maybe nation or region, to the mondo, worldwide. And so for me, it is a constant teacher. And it is guidance for when I do want to give into quicker answers of violence or dismissal or pretending that there is in a way when really we're all in the same global community. Nonviolence is creative life force, because when you don't have, let's say, the easy way of just like spanking a child or putting an adult in their, accountability, you have to think more closely about accountability, about underlying needs, and also thinking about how to do something with the least amount of force and the greatest amount of love.
Yes, thank you so much. You are so fun and cool, and I'm just so grateful to have had the chance to interview you. Thank you for being here today, Sarah.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. I'm really grateful to Pace Bene. It was 2011 when I interned there through the Beatitude Society. And it was wonderful because coming from the Mennonite tradition myself and being committed to nonviolence, it was really cool to meet up with Catholic folks and a broader realm who are committed to nonviolence within their tradition. And to think about the transformations within the church that have happened over that time. It has been because of faithful people like those at Pace Bene and all those they partner with around the world who are like the yeast mixed into much flour, it's almost the wrong recipe, yeast and 3 measures of flour. And, it's just so much flour. But the lady just keep mixing and mixing and mixing in this parable that Jesus talks about. And I see a lot of people at Pace Bene just committed to that mix. And you can see the dough rising. You can see the change that is coming. You can see how something like the encyclical Laudato Si is flowing right into the possibilities of decentering the just war theory and centering a sense of the early church revolutionary, revelatory movement that centered around Jesus and those who were seeking to be here now and live in such a different but unique and egalitarian and welcoming way. So I'm just grateful to have had the chance to work ecumenically in that. And then right after Pace Bene, I went to live and work in Jerusalem, where I had a chance to study Palestinian Christian liberation theology. And there I made many friends, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Druze, Baha'is, a lot of people, and we were united in our quest for figuring out how we might serve our religious traditions to be about that peacemaking work and see what is possible. So it was awesome to have a chance to work on translating Engage into Spanish and also just interview a lot of different people of where they were in their social movements and how nonviolence can be a part of that.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you. So nice to meet you.